course is finished. It's done. It's over.
And it seemed we saw videos of Russians apparently arm in arm with Wagner forces. There was a lot of apparent celebration. The West was saying, wow, he was greeted with open arms, Prigozhin. I saw a number of CNN headlines saying that it was a hero's welcome for Prigozhin when he went into Rostov-on-Don. And now charges are dropped against Prigozhin. So will he be prosecuted in any way? Is he going to live out his days in Belarus? And what do you make of this Western narrative of sort of a hero's welcome for him?
Well, let's start with the hero's welcome. Rostov is a city of 1 million people. Count the number of civilians you saw in the square welcoming Wagner. First of all, the vast majority of the civilians there were there out of curiosity. When Wagner first approached, there were no cheers. In fact, Wagner's forces were confronted over and over again by Russians saying, "What are you doing here? Why are you making this mess?" Wagner put people on the ground at gunpoint. Wagner, who has no legal authority whatsoever. People need to understand that. This is not a military unit. It's not a paramilitary unit. It's a private military contractor who has no legal authority to operate on Russian soil at all. So these are criminals in a Russian city bearing arms, seeking to take control of the headquarters that is commanding the special military operation at a time when Russia is a life and death existential military struggle against Ukraine and the collective West. The people cheered when Wagner left. They cheered because there was no civil war. They thanked Wagner for making the right decision to get out of town. What those people didn't realize is that Rostov-on-Don was surrounded by 10 to 15,000 Chechen Akhmat special forces who had sent a message to Prigozhin that you're going to die in a matter of hours. That when Putin gives the green light, we will come in and we will kill you and we will kill all of your Wagner mercenaries. Prigozhin also received the same message from his commanders as they approached Moscow. They entered the Serpukov area, and there were 2,500 Russian special forces lined up there, dug in. They were backed up by thousands more special forces who were outflanking the Wagner forces. And Wagner commanders came back and said, we're going to get into a fight. Now, here's another thing people don't realize. What is a basic combat load? That's what a soldier carries on him to engage in a fight. You know how quickly you fire through your basic combat load in a heavy firefight? Like that. Where's the resupply come? Wagner would have run out of ammunition in hours, and they would have all died. That was the reality. Prigozhin didn't negotiate anything. Prigozhin was told, leave. You're done. Unplugged. Get out of Russia, and Wagner is finished. And that's what we're seeing. So all this concept of a negotiated settlement, Prigozhin making a point, Wagner being treated as heroes. Wagner is a criminal entity. A criminal entity. 3/4 of Wagner refused to participate in this coup d'etat. This coup has been planned for months. Russia has known about it. Russia has been coordinating with the commanders of Wagner to avoid a civil war, to have them conform with Russian law, to have the Wagner fighters sign contracts binding them to the Ministry of Defense so now that they have a legal status, to get the commanders to do the same thing, to end Prigozhin's billion-dollar money-making venture. People need to understand that Prigozhin is not a military commander. He is a businessman who makes money off of slaughter and blood. Bakhmut, where 20,000 Wagner fighters died. People need to remember that. There is no wonderful formula for Wagner's success. They're not an elite fighting force. 30,000 of the 50,000 Wagner soldiers who fought in Bakhmut were criminals, convicts, with 21 days training. You cannot become an elite fighting force with 21 days training. You were given 21 days training, basic small arms knowledge, basic maneuver, and told, advance or die. That was it. If you survive, your conviction is swiped clean. These were fanatics who fought aggressively, but they're not elite. 20,000 of them died. These units suffered 60% casualties, and Prigozhin's lecturing people saying, we gave you a case study of how you should have advanced through. Prigozhin knows nothing of war. Again, he has no military experience whatsoever. Every operational and tactical decision is made by his commander's council, and this commander's council signed off on tactics that caused shock units to lose 60% casualties, 20,000 dead, and he's saying that the Russians are slaughtering their troops. If the Russian Ministry of Defense followed the Prigozhin model, 300,000 Russians would be dead, and they still would have only advanced a few kilometers. Prigozhin is insane, and that's what people need to understand. Wagner, they fought bravely.